Hey, what's up guys? This is Styles and I'm going to be coming at you with a pro replay this time around. I realize I might have been doing a little bit of too many viewer submissions. Maybe you guys want to see some pro replay stuff. I'm not quite sure. Either way, I'm going to be casting a pro replay. And if you've been paying attention to the chat, you'll know who the players are already. So, we have Liquid Red spawning as the red Zerg, and his opponent is going to be MaNa spawning as the blue Protoss. This is going to be taking place on Tal'Darim Altar. And that's basically all I'm going to say. Let me tell you one good thing though, why I'm so jolly and happy right now. Guess what guys, today is Saturday and I'm coming out of the win from CSL. That is right, I just played in CSL and I did come out with a win. And so I'm extremely jazzed up. Really good day to be a StarCraft player in my book. And I'm glad to be casting this as well. So hopefully this game itself will also be completely awesome. And just based on pylon placement alone, I could already guess what MaNa is going to go for. It looks like he's going to go for a Forge Fast Expand, which is really popular on Tal'Darim Altar. Zerg players on the ladder, if you are going up against a Protoss player on Tal'Darim Altar, 90... Okay, well, I can't say something crazy. I can't give some stupid statistic that I don't even know about, but most of the time you will see a Forge Fast Expand. Maybe you'll see some sort of crazy 4-gate or all of that good stuff, but a Forge Fast Expand is very popular on this map, and although it is kind of sad that MaNa did scout in the wrong direction, one of the biggest problems with Forge Fast Expanding is that, you know, you're Forge Fast Expanding with a big choke to block off, so if your Zerg opponent decides to go for one base, like Zergling, Speedling, all-in sort of play, I mean, the speed won't finish, but those Zerglings will reach your base before you're able to wall off, and it looks like he's actually saving up to 400 and dropping the Nexus first before he gets the Forge. So that's pretty interesting. He did get that Nexus at 15, so that is going to be a 15 Nexus. Really interesting that he did go for that Nexus before the Forge. That is a very ballsy play, especially considering the fact that he did not even scout his opponent first. I guess just based on the fact that his opponent was not in this base will mean that it is a bit of a longer rush distance, because, you know, the ramp is actually, is it the same? I'm not quite sure. Is it? I'm not quite sure. I just know that if he spawns here, that the Zerg player technically has to go around and then enter this base. Actually, I think it equals out because then he has to go around the Protoss base. Either way, I just know that it was a pretty ballsy play to go for that Nexus first before he got that Forge, because you don't get that cannon up and you don't get that wall set up as quickly as possible. But we're going to see the gateway on the way now, and he's also going to be dropping down that Forge. And it's actually pretty scary, because if you guys are paying attention to the production tab and just the fact that the way I've selected these, the Nexus is actually earlier than the hatchery, almost by what looks like 10 seconds, yeah. So that's really scary, considering that the fact that the Protoss player is going to have a base up before Red, and you can see that the Nexus has just finished and the hatchery is still in production, still has a little bit to go. The Overlord is going to be blasted away with his cannon, and now he's going to know basically, oh my god, I'm in a bit of a sticky situation, but I love this play from Red. He's actually getting a macro hatch. This is actually really interesting that he's doing this. Not only does this help all the time, like just the fact that you have that extra larva, it's actually really interesting because, you know, if MaNa decides to go for anything like a 6-gate timing attack after getting out that expansion, which is actually really popular, Protoss players do love that 6-gate because basically you can reinforce with that much more units compared to the 4-gate. You can actually defend a lot more easily if you have that extra larva. And it looks like Red is actually going to be using his initial 4 Zerglings to be breaking down a couple rocks. He is going to stick 1 Zergling out on that probe. And actually, I didn't comment on this before, but what I loved from Red was the way that the moment the Zerglings hatched, he actually sent them off in like all directions, trying to basically get a lot of information from the map, basically sending them all over the place. And I love that kind of play from Zerg players. I mean, it definitely shows how refined Red's playstyle is, that he actually spreads his Zerglings the moment he gets them, and he never has idle lings. And what? Oh my god, he's actually getting another hatchery. This is actually really interesting that he's doing this, because let me just say this. Number one of the worst things that a Zerg player can go up against is actually the Forge Fast Expand from the Protoss. Why is that? Well, because one of the worst things for a Zerg to deal with nowadays is going to be that 200-200 Protoss Death Ball with Colossus in it. And as you can see, MaNa is actually dropping that robotics facility already. And off of 2 base, a Protoss player can definitely get that 200-200 ball going, especially with those Colossus. And the problem is that Zerg players have a really hard time dealing with that unit composition just because of the synergy that the Protoss units have. I mean, they just synergize so well that they support each other. You know, the Stalkers, the Zealots tank for the Stalkers, Stalkers tank for the Colossus, Colossus somehow tank for the Stalkers in a sense if you have enough. And so basically they have really good synergy. And if you're trying to focus fire one or the other, if you're trying to focus fire down the Colossus, then the Zealots and Stalkers are destroying you. If you're trying to kite the Zealots, then, you know, the Colossus with that amazing range will be able to, you know, destroy you as well. So it's just all these weird things that, like, kind of synergize together in the Protoss army. So Zerg does have a hard time dealing with that, so it's going to be basically up to Ret to answer this style of play of MaNa, where he gets that Forge Fast Expand and he starts working on robotic facility units, also starting to get out a lot of gateways as well. And I love this play. What Ret did was actually get out another macro hatch in a sense, but he actually placed it right next to the rocks, so that he can start saturating this base as soon as possible. If we look at the income tab, this, oh my god, the harvest is just 67 to 49. So if we look at his main, it's completely saturated, completely and well saturated. If we look at his natural, completely and well saturated. And also in the early game, I think I did not comment on this, but I did see it as well. And this Overlord is going to go in and see these gateways. But what happened in the early game is that his answer was actually interesting. While he was getting out this this macro hatch, he actually was not mining gas. And that's how I feel like he got this many, basically this many hatcheries up. So he was actually able to afford another hatchery. And why is this important? Because he's still mining. He broke down the rocks and he's building a hatchery there. But during that time, he had a lot of larvae to basically play around with, and he kind of knew, I think up to a sense after scouting, that there is not going to be a 6-gate attack headed his way. So he could technically afford to drone up like crazy. He has not been pressured at all throughout this entire game, so he knew at one point or another he could technically get away with being really greedy. So he threw down this hatchery so that he can mine while the rocks were breaking down and while this actual hatchery was on the way. So now his income is just going to be ridiculous. As you can see, 2,000, but as you can see it from MaNa's perspective, he doesn't even care, and he's going to be going for a third himself. So, oh my god, let me just say this. This is a ridiculous answer from MaNa. MaNa is, look at the supply counts, 122 to 90. MaNa does not really care about defense at this point. He just has a couple Stalkers and a couple Sentries and one Immortal working on those, working on that Colossus, getting out that thermal lens. But at this point, he's just so, like, concentrated on playing macro. He's getting out this Nexus with this huge of a supply deficit, and it's actually going to be pretty interesting how this plays out. Maybe if Red is able to get out a lot of, like, some sort of Hydras or Roaches in a sense, he might be able to do a lot of damage, but it does not look like he has a Hydra den up at this point. But look at how many hatcheries that Ret has. He has 5 hatcheries, all of which are being, like, you know, constantly injected. It looks like, yes, there is in fact queens for at least these two over here and this one in the main. So he's going to be constantly having a lot of larvae. So if he decides to go for a huge roach bust, he might be able to do a lot of damage. It's 161 supply to 116. Will he be able to do enough damage to pretty much punish MaNa for this sort of macro play? But it looks like the force fields might be too much. And oh my god, able to roast away so many of those roaches. Looks like a couple roaches were rallied to the front